Good day, my name is Lucky Luck Luke. You can catch me on Twitch TV, Twitch TV / Lucky Luke 2. So today we're going to be doing another class tutorial for Sword of Stars Pit, and we're going to be doing the Shepherd class. So yeah, let's read a bit about the Shepherd, give a little idea of what he's all about. Enoch is a Prester Zool, a holy warrior sworn to protect and serve. As a shepherd, his powerful charisma gives him a chance to subordinate any Zool he encounters to his will. Any Zool, only female Zool, actually. He has come to the pit to bring salvation to the people of Arbuda, thwart the Bloodweaver and destroy his depraved minions, and to redeem his own soul. Born of blood, born of blood. He is now a pilgrim seeking a higher path. Alright. Let's hop into the Shepherd class here. So let's take a quick look at his starting gear. So he starts with Pain Giver, which is a very powerful dagger, but sadly has extremely low durability and with no way to repair it. So you kind of have to avoid using it as best you can. He starts with the Snub Pistol, which is very, very good pistol, very high range, very high accuracy, really good damage, low penetration, but it's a very good weapon. Uses ammunition, which is quite rare, sadly, which is high explosive rounds, but still a very good pistol which will carry you pretty far. So there's a few EMP grenades, which will save you later on when you get some tough mechs. A good chunk of insta-healing, which is nice. Fair average armor, I guess. It's got pretty high durability, but yeah, pretty high durability. And a few Lear ammo drinks. So not the most impressive gear. He doesn't have any of the... he has 2 lockpicks, which is important, but he doesn't have any other tools, but his doesn't particularly need tools. So one of the first things to mention is that the Shepherd actually has 3 move speed, which is extremely valuable. So let's talk about his psionic skills. So he starts also with a unique skill called Domination. Hopefully we'll be able to show you what it does. But this allows you to mind control any female Zool, and it becomes your ally. You can only have one ally at a time. So female Zools are pretty much any Zool except the Zools that look like you, the smaller Zools. The large Zools are actually female Zools. So yeah, any Zool except the ones that kind of look like you, which pretty much only show up very late in the game. So yeah, he has access to Berserk, which is a very powerful skill, but extremely hard to use and a bit unreliable, sadly. But a very powerful skill. Got Heal, and he has Side Shield. So one thing you might notice is that he has pretty much no offensive Sonic skills short of Berserk at the beginning. So that's one of his downfalls, is that he's considered kind of a Psionic user, which is high side pool. He actually has kind of low side regen for a Psionic user, which is pretty bad, which means that you need to get a side drain as soon as possible. So one strategy you want to do is probably spam Life Sense as much as you can, especially early on, because you can afford to do so, because you probably won't be using all of your Psionic pool. And you just kind of want to spam it just in hopes of getting a free skill up and getting closer to side drain than you otherwise would if you didn't spam it. Because it's probably maybe not the most important skill, but a very important skill. So kind of what you want to do for the first few floors, let's go through his stats here, I guess. Or maybe not. We'll go through his stats later on. But one of his weaknesses, he has a very low melee skill, and he doesn't start with a reliable melee weapon, which makes things very difficult for him early on. So you want to try to get your melee skill up. So try to punch things as much as you can. Try to punch things as much as you can because you want to get that melee skill up. But there's a downfall to this because you kill enemies very slowly, and the Zool has a pretty high food consumption rate. So you're wasting a lot of time doing this. But the alternative is to use your Pain Giver, and then if you use your Pain Giver, it's going to break very soon, and then you won't have any way to kill tougher enemies later on. Pain Giver is actually a pretty awesome weapon and has pretty good utility, which maybe we'll be able to get into. So the Zool has very low health pool, so you kind of want to make sure. Well, actually, this wasn't necessary. Make sure to try to keep your health pool full almost all the time, because you can easily die very quickly. And usually I would take... Oh, I did take it off. Yeah, it's a good idea to take off your armor for first few floors. This is dangerous. You'll probably end up dying a few times because of it, but I think it's worth the risk. It'll pay off later if you can save this and use the durability. Use the armor a bit later. But, huge downfall, like I said. If a robot sneaks up on you and shoots you, you're probably dead. If you step on a landmine, you're definitely dead. Even with your armor, you may die. So, let's cast another life sense here. One funny strategy I kind of came up with, maybe I can do this. So, actually, let's talk about the leader ammo drinks. I feel what I like to do with these is, as you saw there, I got a free biotech skill up from it, from eating it. So try to use these as soon as possible, but because it gives you a small, very small regen boost. And the regen boost kind of doesn't do much later on when your health pool gets bigger. I feel like it's more important early on. So make sure you just keep using it, and also you're going to need to get rid of this because of your low inventory space. You're going to need to get rid of it. So use these as soon as you can so you can just kind of get rid of it. But I suggest, don't, it doesn't stack, so don't use it until the buff wears off. So, one little funny thing is, let's see if I can, sometimes this works out alright, but he starts with disruptor grenades, which are terrible grenades. Absolutely terrible. What it does is it can drain the psionic energy, but it doesn't drain enough for it to be of any use usually. So basically I like to use it as a damage dealer early on. And it's another thing that you just kind of want to get rid of. As you saw there, I just used Domination on the Azul Infant Swarm. So this allows me to mind control it. So to be honest with you, what I usually do with Disruptor Grenades is just use it for damage for weak characters. I was going to use it here, but because I found the Azul Infant Swarm, I don't really want to use it because the ally actually, helps a lot. No, maybe not a lot, but helps a bit. Keep your health up.
It's all in my head.
So one thing you mentioned about your pets, later on, once you do have Psi Drain unlocked, you can actually Psi Drain your own pets, so it becomes a small Psi battery if you can keep them alive for a bit. Sometimes there's bad things about the pet because they can kill enemies and steal experience points from you, but I think it's worth it, even if they do that. They're kind of stupid too. Sometimes you can see he hasn't done anything this whole time. They work better if the enemy is not moving, then they have a better chance of attacking him.
Think of it as mercy.
Alright.
Ah, brilliant.
What else can I talk about here? So right now we're not going to spam Psi Life Sense. Well, one, because we don't have the Psi, but we're going to have to wait till we level up before we can do so. So one little trick, I wouldn't stay still and punch things on this character. It's good to just kind of keep moving. Keep moving while punching. If you are going to shadow box, as they call it, to get a few extra melee skill ups, which comes in handy. So I didn't get to use my Disruptor Grenade strategy I like to do. It's not really that important, but it's worth mentioning. So yeah, the Zul actually has a pretty low Psi regeneration, which is kind of unfortunate. So we're just going to level up now, go through his level up strategy that I do with him. So first thing I like to do is get Might 30 at least. As you can see, the Zul has very low inventory space, and that becomes a problem very quickly, especially because you have very high foraging. So which means you'll find a lot of stuff very quickly. So he only gets 1 stat point per level. So one strategy you could do is save up your stat points 5 at a time. It's something I don't do, but sometimes it's a smart thing to do. Save your points 5 at a time and then put them in a stat, because the stat points don't really do anything unless they're in increments of 5. So I have 6 skill points available. What do I like to level up? Actually, before I level up, let's go through his skills. He's got pretty good lockpicks. Electronics is low, but electronics kind of goes up quickly on its own. Mechanical is low, which is unfortunate, but that can go up, in all in due time. decent computer skill, no engineering, good pistol, average rifle, average assault weapon, no heavy weapon, pretty good decipher. Blade skill is really good if you happen to be lucky enough to find a blade. Same with a knife. Um, Very low melee skill, very high forging, decent biotech, and then I will get into his psionic skills. So what I like to level, I like to get resistance. The reason I like to get resistance is because I like psi armor. So I would get it until you at least unlock psi armor. Comes in handy, and if not just for that reason, it makes psi shield last a bit longer. And the other point I would put into mech empathy. It starts off very low, sadly, but I think it's worth it because Sabotage and Subvert are both very amazing skills. You'll unlock them very, very late, but I still think it's worth the investment. That's debatable, though. But mechs and cyborgs are the most troublesome enemies, especially for the Shepherd. So this will give you answers to them later on. I wouldn't go with Manifestation. I don't think it's worth it on this character. I would get Redaction until you at least unlock Metabolic Control. I would stop at that point. I don't think there's much reason to go much further than that. Because food is quite a problem on this character. He has very high food consumption rate. So it's good to level up his skills until you get to Metabolic Control. I'm gonna get a quick drink of water. Okay. I would definitely level up Warmind. He starts with very high Warmind, so it will take a long time, but eventually you can unlock Puppet. Even Paralyze is not too bad, but even Life Drain is actually pretty decent on this character. I wish it didn't cost so much, but it does a fair amount of damage, and the good thing about it is that it ignores armor. So on certain enemies, such as Cyber Jaeger Bears, Hopkinites, stuff like that, like high armor organic units, which are kind of rare, this is very powerful. And because you don't have TK Fist, yeah, and I think you usually get this before TK Fist. Yeah, you will get this before TK Fist. It gives you a source of damage through Psionics quicker than TK Fist. Speaking of TK Fist, I would definitely level TK Telekinesis probably the whole game until you unlock Sharpstorm. If you may not get that far, but if you do, then good for you. And I would level Empathy not every level, but until you get Psi Drain. Psi Drain is extremely important because his Psi regen is not that great. So you're going to need a way to get your Psionics back up, and that's the only way to do it. Well, not the only way to do it. That's one of the best ways to do it. And he starts a bunch of Master Kits, so if you're desperate for Psionics, these are good. And actually, I just wasted charge there, but he actually has a 100% chance to use these. These are usually extremely hard to use for most characters, but he has a 99% chance, 99, I think it's actually a 100% chance to use it. So that's one of the strengths of the Zool. And I think that's it for the leveling up strategy. Yeah. I feel like I'm missing a point somewhere. But after you unlock a few skills, you should have a few points floating. What I would do with the extra points is once mechanical is at 45, I put a few points there. A lot of good crafting skills and things that need to be opened that need that skill. If you can, maybe put, depending on what weaponry you find, a few points in rifle or assault weapon are always good. Biotech, very important. So once that's at 45, I would suggest putting a point in that, probably every level. So this is a high priority. So biotech is probably what you'll be doing, what you should be putting your final points in, your extra few points that you'll have later on. Biotech, maybe mechanical, maybe rifle. Okay. Let's take a look to see if I missed anything. High XP gains, I think I mentioned that. His stats, I don't think I talked about it, I guess. Well, he has extremely high power, extremely high brains. Brains allows him to find traps. I believe it's based on that stat, so at least you're less likely to step on a landmine and instantly kill yourself, but that has happened to me a lot despite the 80 brains. 90 power is awesome. Makes it so that you can land fears and paralyze, stuff like that very easily, and be very resistant to them. One thing, yes, the Zool, he has very low might, which you would think would make you very susceptible to disease, but actually the Zool is immune to disease. So you don't have to worry about diseases at all. But poisons are another thing. But he starts with 3 anti-venom, but poisons are extremely, very dangerous for the Zool. So be careful for poisons. And not only do they deal damage, but they could kill you through stat drains. And it's also very hard to fight it off because of your low might. That's it. Speaking of low might, that is one of his weaknesses. He starts with pretty low HP and low HP per level. Something to keep in mind. High food consumption rate, only 1 stat point per level, low inventory space, low melee skill, low max skill. Okay, so I pretty much talked about everything I want to talk about as far as like stats and stuff like that. So one thing I kind of hate about the Zool is the first floors. You want to punch everything, but my God, does it take ever long? It takes so long to punch things down. You kind of have to, sadly, because you want to get that. You want to save your durability on. You want to save your durability on your pain giver, as I just lost one there. But you know. I should be spamming life sense here, especially since I'm already at full. Okay, well, I think this will be... Well, one thing I should mention is that I'll talk a bit about Berserk skill, because that's one of his only offensive psionic skills he gets early on, and it's not a great one. It can be great, but sometimes it's hard to use. So one thing you want to... I'll talk a bit about Berserk here. It's tough to talk about it without a perfect example, but let's Berserk this character here. So, see, as you can see, Berserk was terrible here. I Berserked him, he just simply turned around. Berserk, they have a line of sight, so they'll usually only attack stuff in their line of sight, like if they're facing the right direction. So you need to keep that in mind, that they won't attack stuff. So the best things to Berserk usually are ranged organic units, if possible, like Hivers, Makose. Yeah, it's very good on those characters. Sometimes if you get lucky and there's like a disease bear or a large protean that's positioned properly, you can Berserk and get some free damage that way. And every damage kind of matters. Well, usually I wouldn't Berserk this guy because I can dominate him, so I'm going to do that. And yeah, I think that concludes my tutorial. Actually, I'll talk about one last thing that does not conclude my tutorial. Talk about the Pain Giver. As the name suggests, it has a chance to inflict pain. This thing does crazy amounts of damage. So it's actually your highest damaging weapon right at the beginning. It attacks twice and it has a chance to inflict pain. What pain does is it removes any psionic buffs that the enemy has, and also prevents them from casting future psionics. So it's actually quite useful once you find them against cerebrals. Because as long as, well, one, if it attacks twice, it'll probably kill it. Two, if one of the attacks miss, you hope it lands pain, and that preventing it from casting TK Fist or healing itself. It's a very good weapon for psionic users. But the problem is, you can't really, unless you get lucky, you can't really save this weapon. One, because you have such little inventory space. Two, because it has such terrible durability. But sometimes you get lucky drops and you can manage to just keep it for most of the game. And yeah, that'll do it for my tutorial. So my name is Lucky Luck Luke, and this was the Shepherd class tutorial for Sword of Stars: The Pit. I hope you enjoyed it. Catch me on Twitch sometime, Lucky Luck Luke 2 on Twitch TV. And yeah, thanks.